Buffs Nation, what's going on? Hope you all are having a wonderful start to your week, and that everybody had a restful weekend. As we know, uh, the Buffs have a lot going on. Coach Prime is in Madden. That's crazy. We have T.O., the Hall of Famer himself, on campus all week, working with Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, the rest of the wide receivers. It's an exciting time, and we got a little less than 3 weeks until our kickoff against TCU on Big Noon. And as we prep for the season, obviously, my favorite player going into the season is our quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. And I am honored to have Stephen Hamner on, who is the one who runs the QB Spotlight YouTube channel. If you haven't seen his videos, please make sure you go check him out. Almost past 4,000 subscribers, I think. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Stephen.
Awesome. David, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely, Stephen. I really do appreciate your time. And yeah, I would love to talk a little bit and hear a little bit more about your background. I know you're also, I believe, one of the co-founders or founders of Reach Training. Yep. Seems like you work with a handful of different professional athletes. To give my viewers an idea of what you do, I would love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to share. So we work in the sports performance field, kind of like you mentioned, and we do a lot of the strength conditioning / speed side of training. So we see a lot of MLB and NFL guys. That's kind of our main clientele that we have come through. So was seeing a bunch of MLB guys. We naturally have seen a bunch of quarterbacks as well. And my background, I played in college very unsuccessfully. My only touchdown was actually to the other team, if that tells you how good I was in college. But after that, I just always had a love for the quarterback position, so I got into training, and so we see all these athletes come through, and then we have this QB Spotlight, I guess Twitter handle and YouTube channel kind of dedicated to just spotlighting quarterbacks, just a big quarterback hub. So we have a bunch of current and former pro and college quarterbacks on our podcast, and we have coaches come on, just kind of give their nuggets for the quarterback position. So it does help us and kind of put out some good quarterback content. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. My only touchdown was to the other team in college, but we do work with these guys on the strength side of things.
Man, well, I think that's awesome. And I mean, even if it was to the other team, you've thrown more touchdowns than I have in my career. So let's go ahead and dive in a little bit. I mean, you've been taking a big look at a lot of the college quarterbacks getting ready for this season. So for our viewers that haven't seen your work on your channel, which is linked in my description, by the way, to this. So please go subscribe to Stephen as you're watching this video. What has been your general analysis of Shedeur, looking at his film last year? Were there anything, what are his strengths? Were there anything that surprised you about reviewing his film?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a few things too, at least whenever I was watching Shedeur, to remember. It was one, just knowing the level of competition they were going against. And then two, I really didn't watch much of him until after he transferred to Colorado. That's when I went back to watch some of the films. I admittedly wasn't tuned into Jackson State games on Saturdays, but was saying that the thing that is evident to me, at least in watching film, is one, the preparedness. Right, you can see how he processes defenses pre-snap to post-snap. And then on top of that, you're able to see the anticipation factor of things. And that comes from probably, the who he has as his dad to coach, to help him be prepared. But if you're prepared, then you're able to read defenses quicker, right? If you can read defenses quicker, you're able to get rid of the ball quicker. And that anticipation factor kind of helps with things. So I think those were the kind of the big takeaways at Jackson State. I think it was probably hard to find a bunch of negative takeaways at the competition he was playing. I'm not a quarterback guru on technique, but I'm sure there's some technique guys out there that can find something, or footwork stuff, mechanical stuff, I'm sure is out there. I think the only this isn't even a negative thing. The only kind of asterisk you would have is just saying, like, okay, the speed that he's going to be playing against the Pac-12 is obviously going to be faster than at the Jackson State level. But with that said, like, he obviously knows that he's going to be prepared for that. It's not like a shock to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's been one thing that's been brought up on my channel, or when we hear people talk about the Buffs, the level of competition. But I think what one thing that gets me excited, I guess, is if you have a really talented quarterback playing at that level, what you'd want to see is 70% completion and
Right.
70 touchdowns in 2 years. And
Yeah.
I don't think you can ask for much better performance than that, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I think like 70 TDs, 14 picks, so like a 4 better than 4-to-1 TD to interception ratio. So that is an argument. People say, hey, oh, he's playing against not great competition, this and that, but he did exactly what you were supposed to do against that level of competition. I think some of the stuff that he did well too on film transfers to any level of competition. I think just the ability to read defenses, and then the ability just to be prepared within the offense. So I'm super excited for the offense he's going to be running, this coming up year, which I'm sure we will we'll get to. But I think there is some carryover effects from the Jackson State level to the Colorado level, even though it is up a level.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into this a little bit deeper. I know we don't have a film room going right now or
Right.
anything, but when you mentioned that Shedeur does a really good job of reading defenses or identifying coverages pre-snap, could you talk a little bit more in detail, or maybe give some examples or
Sure.
situations how that's illustrated?
Sure, absolutely. So I think with, or at least from take with a grain of salt, because we're not in the coaches rooms, we're not in the offensive play calling room. So maybe I'm completely wrong in looking at this, but if you're looking at him pre-snap read, like right, he'll you typically have like a read side, whether it's field side, boundary side, you have like a typical like read side, and you have your back side,
Mhm.
and so depending on the route, depending on the coverage, you'll have maybe one indicator, maybe one defensive player that you're looking at, and based off what that defensive player does will depend on where the ball is distributed to, right? So for example, if we want to make like super elementary level, if I have a running back, if I'm in 10 personnel, right, and all that is no tight ends, one running back and gun, I have a running back on
Mhm.
my right side. If I have him do a swing route, let's say he's on, I got an outside linebacker. That outside linebacker goes with the swing route, most likely a man position. If he stays there, it's probably some type of zone type read. So, if he's able to just read or look at one player on the defense, and based off that, he's able to distribute the ball, then that's probably, at least that's for me when I'm watching it. That's the
Yeah.
indicator of a pre-snap to post-snap read. Also, one more thing to touch on is a lot of times quarterbacks, you talk to look at the safeties. Your safeties are going to tell you a bunch of stuff, right? So a lot of times if you have two up top safeties, you got maybe cover 2, cover 4, something like that. But in today's day and age of football, a lot of safeties, show one thing pre-snap, then roll into something else. You might
Yes.
have too high, and then they roll into cover 1 look or cover 3 look, right? So if he's able to see that and adjust after the snap of the ball, that's a good example of processing the defense from post snap to pre-snap, or from pre-snap to post snap, if you will.
Yeah, I really appreciate you illustrating that, Stephen, because I talk a lot of just how I feel like Shador's best asset or weapon is his mind and his ability
Mm,
to like understand what's going on, and that leads towards all the production and high efficiency that he's had. It, going into this year, now being paired with Sean Lewis, how do you feel that pairing is
mm.
compared to what he was doing at Jackson State? And are there particular types of throws? I guess maybe this is getting a little bit more in detail about that you feel like Shedeur throws very well, and how that's going to suit him in this new offense.
Yeah, I thought a lot of times, like with Shedeur, at least the film that we were able to watch, like the ball typically comes out quick. He's looking for what the defense is going to give him, and that's exactly what Sean Lewis's offense is centered around, right? What the defense is given, you get the ball out quick, right? We're
Mhm.
going to go fast. A lot of RPO type schemes, probably more RPO schemes in Lewis's offense than what they ran at Jackson State, if I had to just guess off the top of my
Yeah.
head. But the ball's coming out quick. We're trying to be efficient with the ball, and in doing that, you take your shots selectively. Maybe that's the right way to put it. You take your shots, and the defense lets you take your shots, right? So whenever the defense starts creeping up a little bit, that's when your shots are taken. So I think some similarities at Jackson State as far as the ball is getting out quick. The reads were fairly quick reads, and then you go to the offense that Sean Lewis has, where it's a different offense, but the ball still wants to get up quick, and it's a mismatch game, if that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense, right? With this RPO scheme, and so I think he's going to fit in that offense well. I think he's probably going to run the ball more than he did at Jackson State. If you look at how Kent State's quarterbacks ran the past few years, and I know last year wasn't the year that Kent State and Sean Lewis wanted to have, but if you go back, if it sounds like you're obviously a Colorado junkie. It sounds like all your subscribers are too. But if they're interested, I'd go back and watch the 2019 offense at Kent State and the 2021 offense at Kent State when they had Crum running those offenses at the quarterback position, because he was a hell of a quarterback and they used him perfectly. Right, high completion percentage, yards per attempt or push downfield about 8 or so. Then he was able to run as well. I think he led the team in rushing as well. So I don't know if that's going to happen with Shedeur, but I do expect him to run a bit more. The ball's going to get out quick. And then as those quick shots or quick passes start creeping in the defense's mind, that's when you take your shot deep.
I think that's a great point you're bringing up about Shedeur running. We've debated this on this channel quite a bit, what you've been bringing up about how many more designed runs might we see. I know last year, when I was looking at the numbers, I think Colin Schley, their quarterback, was second on the team in carries. I don't think we'll have that type of amount of rushing production from Shedeur, but I do think that we'll see a little bit of an uptick in some designed runs for him as well. Now let's get in, I think, a little bit towards a little bit more of the nuances of this offense. With Kent State, one thing that we've talked about quite a bit is it doesn't seem like the tight end is really involved much in the passing game. Do you feel like that is an issue or anything that we need to be concerned about? I mean, I know that Kent State, their offense has been highly productive, but in terms of matchups or keeping the defense on their heels, are there ways that Sean Lewis still mitigates that, maybe when they're rolling out tight ends and you kind of have an idea of what they're lined up to do?
Yeah. I think it's probably the best answer would probably be, what the personal package is. Like if you have talented tight ends, they're probably going to get utilized a bit more. Like typically in RPO schemes, you have so many different philosophies, right? But a lot of RPO successful offenses, they do utilize a tight end because it's an easy kind of dump, quick pass. The linebacker's out of position by a foot. Great, I can dump this real quick, right? So I wasn't sure the tight end situation at Kent State, but just because he didn't use that at Kent State, I don't know if I'd put a ton of stock in him not using it at Colorado if he has the personnel that fits, if it helps the offense. Now, if it doesn't, then maybe they go about a different way. But I would probably bank on, if you have a talented tight end at Colorado that you can move and split out a little bit, or kind of have your hand in the dirt too. I would be surprised if he isn't being used. If that kind of answers your question. I think it's a personnel kind of package, if you will.
Yeah. That definitely gives some insight. To give a little bit more context for where Colorado is right now, we've brought in a lot of transfers, like over 70 transfers, scholarship. But tight end is actually one of these really interesting question mark position groups for the Buffs, because we have 2 scholarship tight ends that are left on the roster from last year. And then everybody else is like a walk-on or a walk-on transfer, preferred walk-on transfer. So there has been a lot. Big LT just threw him in here in the comments. Michael Harrison, he's a converted wide receiver that's now a tight end. He's been getting a lot of buzz in camp. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that we're not going to be able to really have an answer for until we start seeing how the offense performs once the season hits in terms of tight end utilization. But I think it's one thing that I think we're more excited about rather than really worried about, because we got a lot of coaches. Got Tim Brewster coaching the tight ends. We have Sean Lewis, who has proven to put points on the board, and it's something that we're looking forward to see kind of how he utilizes these tight ends. But let's talk a little bit more about Shedeur. Obviously, you review a ton of different quarterback film. Are there certain quarterbacks, whether they're in the college or pros, like right now, that he kind of reminds you of, or that we can comp him to, that come to mind?
That's a good question. I'm so bad at these comps, but at the top of my head, if I had to think of someone, maybe like a a Derek Carr type style, right? Where you can run a little bit. He's probably not as big as Derek Carr, but you can run a little bit. You have a good arm. You have all the tools you need, and you're a high IQ quarterback, right? That might be a good comp. Maybe even a Trevor Lawrence type comp. Trevor's probably a little bigger, maybe even a bit faster, but he's a quarterback that can move a little bit. So Shedeur is a guy who obviously his first instinct isn't to take off and run. He wants to throw from the pocket, but if he has to. So yeah, Derek Carr might be a decent little comp besides Derek's like 6'4" and pretty jacked. But so he might be a little bit bigger, but yeah, maybe a Derek Carr type or anyone who has a high football IQ who can move a little bit, but is looking to pass first is probably a good comp to Shedeur.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr has been one of the guys that has been thrown around on the channel throughout this time as well. I think that's good, and yeah, I think Shedeur is standing at about 6'2", but he definitely has beefed up this offseason, and I think his body's going to be looking a little bit more NFL ready as we get into the season, which is fun. We had Lawrence bring up this question here, which I think is pretty interesting for you, Stephen, where we can kind of take this in a few different directions, in terms of Shedeur and what you're thinking in terms of declaring for the NFL or what you would advise him to do. Where do you think he is at right now? Maybe if you could give an evaluation on draft stock or anything like that, or what you would expect from him coming back for his senior year or not.
Yeah, sure. So I'd probably say, hey, make sure you consult with your dad. He's going to be way smarter than Stephen Hamner. But I do think there's probably a lot of different scenarios that go into the potential ability to get drafted. I think you have if we back it up for a little bit, you have one camp of Shedeur Sanders who's like, hey, he's throwing 50 TDs, he's throwing 2 picks, he's the Heisman first round pick, right? Like you have that camp, then you have the other camp who's like, hey, he's gonna fail. Colorado's gonna fail because all this and that, and so you have 2 camps, like the best team or the absolute worst team, and so I think I'm probably going to say, hey, he's probably somewhat in the middle. And one person I would never bet against in my life is probably Deion. So if I had to bet, he's probably going to be at the upper tier, if you will. And so I think if he has let's just say if he has a middle of the road season, let's call him a 6th or 7th. Let's call him the 6th best quarterback in the Pac-12. Probably best to come back and do it again and show you can get better, right? I think that would be advisable. Now, if he goes in and he kills it, like the high expectations, then yeah, I'd get out of college and hopefully Colorado has another quarterback to develop. But man, I'm not great with the NFL advisory type stuff. So that's probably not a great answer. But I think if you keep it basic, if he kills it, leave. If he's middle of the pack, probably stay, get better, develop, play against competition again, especially going to, I guess, the Big 12 next year. So you have a whole different type of defenses you're going against. And then you can show that, hey, I was successful in the Pac-12. I was successful in this conference. And then NFL scouts are going to, enjoy seeing that. So I don't know if that's the best answer, but the easiest answer is probably, man, just really, really depends on where he falls in these expectations.
Yeah, well, I think it's easy for us to say, but the way you lay it out, it makes a lot of sense. And I think in most years, in the Pac-12's existence, from when they expanded from 10, you'd see Shedeur come in here as probably starting the season as one of the most talented quarterbacks in the conference. Obviously, right now, the conference is kind of ending this year on probably its highest note in terms of talent, teams, quarterback play, with Caleb Williams, Penix, Bo Nix, Cam Ward,
Yep.
Cam Rising, all those guys. So yeah, it is going to be really tough kind of quarterback competition this year, but I'm hopeful. At least I can see scenarios in which he can kind of touch that top end of quarterback play. You brought up an interesting point on one of your videos that I was watching about how TCU, even with the big success they had last year, they had, let's see, how many games still giving up 30 plus points? Do you remember what that was?
I believe it was 7 games, and they might have had 1 or 2, or it was 29 or 28 they gave up. But yeah, they have 7 games with 30 plus points.
Wow. And I haven't followed their roster turnover at a very detailed level right now, but I did see somewhere that they've had about 40% of their starters turnover for this year.
Wow.
So that, that might lead to the opportunity for the Buffs to put up quite a bit of points this year. But I think I let you know that, or I might have said it in a comment on your video, that right now the school records for CU for passing are they're not very high, because
Yeah.
we've had a lot of maybe dual threat or running quarterbacks. Of course, we were running the option years and years and years
Right.
ago. But the passing record is 3,200 yards on the dot for the single season, and then 28 touchdowns. So, in terms of like your performance, I know you've kind
Yeah.
of talked about it a little bit. Would you expect Shedeur to exceed those expectations, you think?
Man, that's a good question. Hey, was that Steven Montez or who holds that? Do you
Cepho
remember?
Rufau,
Okay.
um, from our
Gotcha.
2016 season. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yep.
um,
My next guess was gonna be Cody Hawkins, but it dates me a little bit.
he's right up there, Cody
Okay.
Hawkins.
Okay.
Yeah. So those three guys, those are
Those are top three.
basically like all
Yeah.
the top three in all the different single season
That's cool.
categories.
I used to love Cody Hawkins. He's a shorter quarterback, kind of like me, so I always like rooted for him. But man, back to the question. Yeah, I think those are realistic expectations. I think those are like very highly potentially those are good expectations to break, right? Like that would that would put him averaging roughly a little over 2 touchdowns a game, and so I think those are realistic expectations. And I think the defenses they're playing against, I think it's realistic as well, right? Like the toughest defense of the Pac-12 are what, Oregon, Washington, Utah, maybe like those three. But
Yeah,
but
those three.
and like you mentioned against TCU, like who knows what happens a few weeks away. I know everyone's excited, but I would be more surprised if they didn't put up points than if they did. That makes sense, right? Like I expect them to be able to put up some points. And so, yeah, I think those are realistic expectations. I think the chances of him getting there are above 50%. If we're doing a percentage range, maybe 51, 49 or something. Those are still pretty good numbers. Like even if he was like a notch under, I still think that'd be a good season in your first year, right? Like I think that's where it goes back to like, hey, let's remember these expectations. Like, yeah, they have a whole new roster coming in, and there are a lot of good players, but still their first, year playing with each other. Maybe it takes a few games to gel, who knows? And they're playing against teams that have been together for a while now. So I think even if he hit those or is right under, that can still be considered a successful season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a fun year for Buffs fans because, we haven't been relevant in such a long time. And from where we finished last year, I think, really any sort of result for the most part, 99% of these results I feel like are going to feel like a win for Buffs fans, and we're going to be able to watch truly competitive football this year, which is something that we haven't been able to do in quite a while. In terms of this college season, want to shift gears here a little bit. I know we got a few minutes to wrap up, but who are some other quarterbacks that maybe outside the Pac-12, we're going to be paying attention, obviously, to the Pac-12 quite a bit this year. Some quarterbacks that you have an extra eye on, or that you think that we should pay attention to in the greater college football landscape?
Yeah, someone that I've liked to watch the past few years is KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas quarterback. He fit Kendall Browse's offense perfectly, and he ran it perfectly, right? The RPO scheme, fast. He one of the best running quarterbacks, but also a really good passer of the football, underrated. And now he's got a new offensive coordinator, Dan Enos, coming from Maryland, who is going to be maybe a little more slower tempo, more under center, more NFL concepts, if you will. And so I'm actually really excited to see his progression, his improvement, and him playing in a different offensive system. I'm just kind of we watch a lot of, we're down in Texas, so we keep up with the SEC a lot. Sorry, Pac-12 people, but he's a fun quarterback to watch, and he's probably one of the most strongest Qs in the nation. Of course, you have your big name guys like like Drake May and stuff.
Yeah.
But looking for an underrated cat, I enjoy watching. I thought Jaden Daniels from LSU, very underrated guy. His backup actually was one of my favorite quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier. They may have the best quarterback room of the whole nation. I think Nussmeier probably start at the majority of FBS schools. Yeah, that guy's a dog. Yeah, probably the best quarterback room in the country. Another one to look out for if you just want to think just purely underrated quarterbacks. The ACC has some underrated cats. Riley Leonard from Duke had a hell of a season last year. He was a big reason why they won so many games, and he's a huge dual threat guy. He's a much better athlete than people give him credit for, and he can rip it as well. And the ACC has some new starters coming in as well. Mitch Griffiths at Wake Forest, he could be an underrated cat. So ACC's got some underrated QBs as well, and then you still got so many like interesting storylines, like the who's going to start at Alabama, and then you have the Joe Milton at Tennessee coming in. So you got some like cool storylines coming in. But those are some quarterbacks that come to my head as far as like guys like to watch, and also like some underrated guys as well. And I've got a list. So I won't bore y'all with that, but we can dive in more if you want with that.
Yeah. I would like to hear a little bit more of that.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah, we can dive in. Maybe we'll do a quick, if you want to do like a quick conference by conference type thing, just like super quick, if that's at all interesting. I think, I don't know how many guys or any guys and girls that watch your channel watch Group of 5 football. There's some good quarterbacks in the Group of 5 that are like really underrated. If you like Group of 5 football, you just want to sound like really smart in front of people you work with. But Tulane's quarterback Michael Pratt, really good quarterback, really came on the scene last year. Of course, most people probably know Grayson McCall at Coastal Carolina. Yep. Probably the best quarterback in the Group of 5. And you got Frank Harris at UTSA, like a 6th or 7th year, but he's probably holds every record there. Carter Bradley at South Alabama is another good one in the Group of 5. So those are some guys to kind of keep your eye on and watch in the Group of 5. And then like if we go to Big 12, you got so many new starting quarterbacks coming in and new teams. That it's kind of just all over the place. But I think it's always fun to keep up with Texas, with Quinn Ewers and the backup quarterbacks. Like Texas is like, if they do really good, it's fun to watch. If they do really bad, it's like a dramedy. It's like comedy and drama. It's like the best thing you can see on TV. So regardless if they win or lose, it's like must-see TV. But I think they got a really good quarterback situation down there in the Big 12 or at Texas. We talked ACC, Big 10. Whoever starts at Ohio State's probably going to do pretty well. If you go by the track record, they got the best receivers. But I think McCarthy is a good quarterback. I think he's underrated. They just, Michigan, they were ahead by so many points in so many games. It wasn't a real need for him to have to, rip it and lead back. But I thought he showed that at times. Against TCU, I think he did a decent job. The Big Ten's got so many transfers, right? Wisconsin's got Tanner Mordecai from SMU. Purdue has Hudson Card from Texas. I want to say one of the Big Ten, I think West maybe has every starting quarterback. The Big Ten West is either new or the transfer guy.
Oh wow,
I could be wrong, but some crazy stat like that. But regardless, a lot of turnover at the quarterback position. It's going to be a fun season all around to watch quarterbacks. So I'm kind of a junkie. I probably rambled a little bit about quarterbacks, but
No, this is great. Guys, this gives you an idea of just how in depth Steven gets on his channel. So please go make sure that you subscribe to it. I forgot, since they're not in the conference, I always forget his name. The quarterback transferring from Wake Forest to Notre Dame. What's his name?
Sam Hartman. Yep. Sam Hartman. So he's this is like his 6th or 7th season too. He killed it at Wake Forest and now going to Notre Dame and hopefully kills it there too. I know for Notre Dame fans, but he hopefully fits that offense well. They got a new offense, new OC. Really good college quarterback. So
I love it. And I forgot to tell you this too, Steven, but I lived 7 years in Abilene, in West Texas. So
did you really?
I went to Abilene Christian for undergrad. I went to CU for graduate school. So that's my connection out here. So I'm totally familiar with the toxicity of Cowboys fans and Texas Longhorns fans, and absolutely love it. I'm going to be paying attention from afar on what's going on in Texas as well. But I wanted to get your thoughts on one more quarterback. If you've had the chance to look at any of his film, forgive me if you haven't. But I was talking with a content creator, Saturday's Warrior, last week covering BYU, and Keaton Slovis. He's somebody that we've seen, starting his career at USC and then kind of pop around at some different schools, now ending his college career here at BYU. What's kind of been your assessment of him?
Yeah, Slovis is interesting, man. Right? Like he jumped on the scene real quick at USC, and
Yeah.
pretty much took JT Daniels' job, and then I think battled some injuries, and then went to Pitt and didn't necessarily I guess wasn't the great fit. Now he's at BYU. So, man, I think he's a guy that he has stuff left in the tank. I think it's a good example of like offensively putting your quarterback in a position to succeed, right? So maybe he's gotten some unfair criticism in the past, but I think if you look at his numbers and his play, it isn't. It probably isn't as bad as maybe people would think if the guy's transferred a few times, right? He's done some good things well. I do think it may be a bit of a challenge going into BYU, your new quarterback at BYU, and now BYU is playing all these rosters who probably have a bit more talent than they have in the Big 12, right? So it may be challenging, but at the same time, if he's able to, to succeed at that level, maybe helps him get a potential shot at the next level. But he was a guy who, like, after he started at USC his first year, like everyone thought he was like going to be all world and had something. So there's still something there. It's just kind of coach put him in the position to succeed.
Man, I love that. Okay, and I hate to take your time, but
no, man, this is great. I could talk quarterbacks all day.
Another quarterback, Texas quarterback that I'd love your thoughts on if you've had to check out is why is his name skipping my mind? The starter at SMU now.
Oh yeah, Preston
Stone.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's gonna be a stud, man. He's gonna be a stud. Yeah, he's gonna be fun to watch. He's a guy who had offers from Texas, like some big time offers, and stayed there. He the high school he went to just like breeds talent. It's a private school in the Dallas area, but it's like one of the best schools in the state. They have D1 Cat. What's it called? I forget. Parish something maybe. I forget. Okay. But yeah, Preston Stone's gonna be a stud, dude. He's gonna. Maybe he's the guy to look out for in the American. He might just blow it up. Yeah, I think he's gonna be a stud. He can run. Got an arm. I know his quarterback trainer that trains a lot of high level guys, and so I know him. And I think he's gonna have a good season this year. It's a safe bet.
Well, oh man, I can't wait to check it out and see your videos as the season progresses. To wrap things up, Steven, I would love for you to, well, first off, thank you again so much for your time and your generosity. Please let my viewers know of where they can find you, anything interesting that you have coming up in the future that you want to promote, where to find you, all of that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, David. I hope I didn't talk too much. People probably sick of hearing my voice, but yeah. So we have a podcast that we put out a few times a week. We have all these current and former quarterbacks come on, just talk about the quarterback position. That's on QB Spotlight on YouTube and on all the podcasts, I guess, services from Apple and Spotify. And then now the season's coming along. Now we're putting out some more content that's directly related to what's going on in college football. We did a bunch of film breakdowns, and we'll probably still do some, but YouTube's kind of making it strict on us to put out film. So we have I'm still kind of working on it, but we'll probably be putting out some like film breakdowns on the Patreon. So we're still doing some stuff, but it won't be flagged on YouTube. But we'll have probably 2 quarterback shows per week, not including the guests that come on the podcast. Well, we will break down the performances of the top quarterback performances of college football, and then we'll preview, the top quarterback games coming up. So, if you're a quarterback junkie or a college football junkie, you can't get enough of it. Maybe you can come check us out and let us know what we can do better. But yeah, that's kind of what we got it going on heading to the season.
I love that. Oh, really quick, I want to know: do you have different tiers for your Patreon? What does that look like?
I think I just made like $5 or something. Okay. Yeah. I think if you wanted to pay more, there's an option, but I haven't been on it in a while, but that was something I was going to start doing during when the season comes back around, is maybe taking the top 5 or 10 performances and mashing it up and just giving a few breakdowns over each game and kind of what the quarterback did well or struggled with. But that will be on the Patreon, I believe. The YouTube stuff will just be me rambling. Talking.
Well, I think that's great. Like I said to you earlier, I've been learning a lot from your channel, so you can count me in for being one of your Patreon subscribers. I look forward to learning more from you as time goes on, Steven. And again, really appreciate your time, and would love to have you on again as we get into the season, see how things are going.
Yeah, well, thank you, David. I'd love to come on anytime. You're doing a great job, man. You're the one I get all my Colorado content from. So thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like on the way out. And if you're watching the replay, leave those comments. I got to know what you guys think about all this. And y'all make sure to check out Steven. And as always, Sco Buffs.